Now, former Nigerian Minister of Education and Director, Due Process Office Dr. Oby Ezekwesili has today been marking her 60th birthday. As part of the occasion, a symposium has been organized to highlight her personal and professional contributions to the development of Nigeria. We cross live now to follow the event as it unfolds.
Don't worry. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I was saying, a think tank came together and put together the celebration of this woman of many parts. They also ensured that the celebration would not be just a celebration, but one that spoke to the essence of life and why we're here. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome His Excellency, the Chairman, Frank Nweke Jr. Give him a round of applause.
Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in particular, the celebrant, Dr. Obiageli Ezekwesili, and her dear husband, Pastor Chinedu Ezekwesili. I welcome each and every one of you very, very specially. And I just want to start by saying what a great pleasure and honor it is to be here with all you very beautiful and eminent people to celebrate the life of purpose and impact that my dear big sister, a global citizen, a patriot, and an iconic Nigerian, Dr. Obiageli Catherine Ezekwesili, has led through the 60 years she has spent on earth. Your presence here today is a testament to the pedigree of this incredible woman and the impact that her values and work have made in the lives of people and in society at large. I welcome and thank you for honoring our invitation to this pre-birthday conversation on accelerators for women in political leadership, featuring incredible female leaders, former heads of states from across the world. We are delighted to have Ms. Ellen Sirleaf Johnson, the former president of Liberia, Ms. Helen Clark, former Prime Minister of New Zealand, and Dr. Joyce Banda, former President of the Republic of Malawi, who will be joining our celebrant for this critical conversation. Beyond the content of the discourse today is the powerful representation of the impact that women can bring to the politics and governance of any nation, as shown by the example of these phenomenal women who will take the stage today. The conversation will be hosted by Alice Nelson of Vital Voices and Sylvana Koch-Merin of Women Political Leaders, two organizations working to increase the number of women in political positions and to improve their ability to deliver impactful results across the world. We also have an interesting conversation on character, competence, and capacity as the members of the School of Politics, Policy, and Governance take the stage to discuss some of the incredible principles that defines Obi and have formed the core of this visionary idea that has become a beacon of hope for our country's political class. It will not just be about the conversations today, and we will enjoy renditions of poetry and beautiful singing both to entertain and to show our gratitude to the Almighty for the blessings He has bestowed on our celebrants today. And what a birthday event, and what is a birthday event without pulling on the heartstrings of the celebrant and everyone who has come to celebrate with her. I look forward to a tear or two as friends and family, mentees, students share their glowing tributes to this great woman we are celebrating today. The events of the next few hours have been designed to reflect many amazing parts of Obi Ezekwesili, but more importantly, to inspire you to a life of purpose. I welcome you all again, and we look forward to a very eventful afternoon. Thank you very much. I just want to make an announcement. I'm telling Ali Baba officially that I'm not on speaking terms with him. Very important.
Yes. But we'll see later, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please another round of applause for His Excellency Frank Nweke, Jr. And I know that some of you are looking around and wondering why the hall is not full. We have parking issues. We have parking issues, and because of the dignitaries that are coming here, quite a lot of screening outside, and very soon you'll see that the hall will fill out. Thank you so much. Your Excellencies, how do we have an insight into this woman that we're celebrating? To help you out with that question, we've put some things together in a documentary just to signpost the reason that we're here, the essence of the woman, and for global impact, and for those of you who are online, so you see why we really are gathered. So ladies and gentlemen, the documentary.
Oh wow, I'm 60. And that's like incredible. I feel so elated.
The journey to 60 began on April 28, 1963, when Benjamin Ume Ujubwong and his wife, Cecilia Nwanyaka Dear Ume Ujubwong, welcomed a baby girl they named Obiageli Catherine Ngozi Ujubwong. Obi was raised under the watchful eyes of a loving mother and a doting father. Her father imprinted upon her the importance of values, knowledge, and a good name as crucial guiding principles needed to live a life of purpose and impact.
I had this really incredible father figure that told me when at 12 I said, why are we not like other countries that I see on television? Why are we so poor? And my father said that we are poor because these other countries have good leaders who are governing them well. That's the problem that we have. So I said to my dad, when I grow up, I will make sure that they govern the country well. And my dad says, Ogeli, carries me, throws me up. My father would say to us that our values must be non-negotiable. My dad framed his own quote, I serve, therefore I lead. So he would say, if you're going to lead, it's going to be because you serve. My mom made all the difference in my father's capacity to stay strong with his ideals.
Dr. Obi, known then as Kate Ume, attended United Christian Secondary School, UCSCC. She was known for her academic brilliance, debating prowess, and audacious nature. Obiageli Ezekwesili earned her undergraduate degree from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, in 1985, where she graduated as the top student in her class. After completing the National Youth Service Corps program in Imo State between 1985 and 1986, she pursued a master's degree at the University of Lagos in 1987. In 1988, she started her professional career as an audit trainee with Akintola Williams Deloitte and Touche, one of the big 5 accounting firms in Nigeria. She went on to qualify as a chartered accountant and was subsequently recruited as a manager in an investment company where she worked for Dr. Tim N. Menakaya, who later assumed the position of Minister of Health in Nigeria. What sets Dr. Obi apart is her unique ability to balance her private sector accomplishments with an unwavering commitment to public issues. While working for Akintola Williams Deloitte and Touche, Dr. Obi married her heartthrob, Pastor Chinedu Ezekwesili. The couple is blessed with amazing sons. Their twins, Chuba and Chinemelum, are artists, designers, and philosophers of nature. And their younger brother, Chidera, is the operations lead across their ventures.
Pastor accompanied me to a speaking engagement that I had in a church in Washington, D.C. They left me at some point, asked Pastor to take some questions. And this person said to Pastor that, what does it feel like to be married to Obi Ezekwesili? I mean, like, we all know her, the dreaded Madam Due Process. Pastor got up to answer the question, placed his hand on my head and said, are you talking about my baby? That was all they needed to know. And he said, all these things don't matter to us. We are a family. We are together on a journey.
During the early 1990s, alongside her professional career, Dr. Obi actively pursued her passion for good governance by participating in civil society activities. As one of the youngest co-founders and pioneer directors for Africa on the board of Transparency International in Berlin, Germany, she played an instrumental role in designing the flagship Corruption Perception Index, an annual global index that ranks countries based on their corruption levels. In addition to this, Dr. Obi served as a steering committee member and later chairperson of Concerned Professionals, a group led by Professor Pat Utomi, which campaigned for the restoration of democracy and good governance during the IBB Abacha military dictatorship. She was also a member of the Board of Integrity, an organization that advances integrity in public and private sector interactions.
The annulment of the 1993 elections, at which many of my generation voted for the first time, just triggered this agitation. As chair of Concerned Professionals, we decided that we would hold a watching brief, the court case of MK Abiola. And Kudirat would go to court, would have someone representing our group. It was on my way there that the then acting High Commissioner for Canada called me and said, don't go further. Kudirat had been killed on Third Mainland Bridge. My mom was really shaken by that event. So it was a tough period. We lost people in civil society. I left the country.
Through the support of her mentor, Baroness Shirley Williams, and a stroke of divine favor and direction, Dr. Obi attended the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University, where she earned a master's in public policy and administration. After her studies, she began working for the renowned economist, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, director of the Harvard Center for International Development, where she led the Harvard Nigeria Economic Strategy Program and provided support in the design of economic development and debt reduction strategy to the newly democratic government of Nigeria. It was in that capacity she began the public procurement reform in Nigeria. At the request of President Obasanjo in 1999, Dr. Obiageli Ezekwesili returned to Nigeria at the end of 2000 to serve her nation. During her time in government, she led the Price Intelligence Unit, PIU, later known as the Due Process Office. She was chairperson of NAITI, Nigeria Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, and she was a key member of the government's economic team. Dr. Obi then served as a Federal Minister of Solid Minerals and later as a Federal Minister of Education.
Some contracts we would save the government more than 5 billion naira in inflated cost in one project. The due process work cut them back to size. And when the president had sent me to Ministry of Minerals, the legislation I inherited had the minister shall. So I decided to do a law that removed all those powers from the minister. We set up what we call the Mining Cadastral Office, and it was a technology-powered system. So I went to education to look at the investment in physical infrastructure, the governance issues, the equity issues, teacher quality, availability, as well as, of course, the teaching method. You have to look at instructional matters, you have to look at evaluation issues, you have to look at financing.
Before completing her term as Minister of Education, Dr. Obi was competitively selected to serve as the Vice President for the Africa region at the World Bank, beginning in May 2007. During her tenure, which lasted until May 2012, she supervised the bank's operations across 48 sub-Saharan African countries. In this role, she managed a lending portfolio exceeding $40 billion and led teams responsible for producing over 150 analytical studies annually across various sectors of the economy. Notably, Dr. Obi holds the distinction of being the first external candidate appointed as Vice President of the African region at the World Bank. She was also the first and only woman Vice President to oversee the bank's extensive operations in Africa. She ran the largest department with more than 2,000 staff under her leadership.
My time at the World Bank, I prioritized the smaller countries in Africa. I prioritized the conflict-affected countries in Africa. I prioritized the countries, the slow-growing countries, and often the small and the landlocked countries and fragile countries had similar kinds of issues. So I prioritized those countries that were most vulnerable to shocks that made them that caused them to be trapped in low equilibrium growth. And then I prioritized the countries like Nigeria and South Africa, which when they grew, it had a salubrious effect on the growth of the rest of the continent.
Former President of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, in his tribute to Dr. Obi, shared the following: Obi Ezekwesili is like a daughter to me. Even when she was a minister, I treated her the same way I treated my biological daughters. I recall when Obi informed me that she was given a job at the World Bank. I didn't want her to go because I needed her. But then I said to myself, let her go. It may be part of Nigeria's contribution to global development, especially in Africa. And she went on to the World Bank and did her best. She was, for me, one of the best from Africa. End of quote. Dr. Obi retired from her position at the World Bank in Washington, D.C. in 2012 to rejoin her family in Abuja. She became a senior economic advisor for the Open Society Foundation in New York, but operating from Abuja while traveling to various countries where she was an advisor to presidents and their cabinets on the design and implementation of economic and human development strategies. On the night of April 14-15 in 2014, Boko Haram, an Islamic terrorist group, kidnapped 276 female students aged 16 to 18 from the government girls' secondary school in Chibok, Borno State, Nigeria. Dr. Obi co-convened the viral citizens' advocacy for the kidnapped Chibok girls due to her burden and anger at the then government's apathy, which denied the incident ever occurred and failed to take the immediate action that could have rescued the innocent schoolgirls.
If we did not stand out there for those girls, they would have just been history. They would have been history. making, some others said, are you sure there are any girls abducted in the first place? Others said, oh, the reason you're doing it is to get attention. I'm thinking, get attention. What attention does an obvious person need again in life? Attention for what? What did I need? You know, some said, oh, you know, it's because Jonathan did not make her a minister. I'm thinking, are they okay? You know, so people had their various things that they were saying. But one thing kept me. It was the fact that if any of those girls had been the children of the middle class, the politically connected, the powerful in this country, they would not have been treated the way they were being treated.
Her reaction to the failures of 2 consecutive governments to rescue the Chibok girls was to run for office in the 2019 general election, despite her well-known aversion to politics. Her decision also served as a signal to encourage unconventional and non-professional politicians to consider entering politics as a means to serve the people. Her presidential campaign was gaining traction until there was a clash between her party and Dr. Ezekwesili over matters of values. On January 24, 2019, she announced a withdrawal from the presidential election. Dr. Obi spent time reflecting deeply on her previous efforts to promote a just and inclusive Nigeria and Africa. This led her to pursue research. She was awarded the prestigious Richard von Weizsäcker Fellowship at the Bosch Academy in Berlin, and with the encouragement of her husband and mother, accepted the fellowship opportunity. Her groundbreaking research culminated in the development of her well-known concept, the triangular pillars of democracy, aimed at rectifying distortions within democracies. She then established a community of practice consisting of 120 individuals from the public sector, civil society, and private sector, and across all regions of Nigeria and the diaspora, who collaborated to implement the findings of her fixed politics research. After her mother passed away in 2020, Dr. Obi became even more determined to transplant the transformation she observed in other countries to Nigeria. She believed this could be achieved by fixing the political system primarily through policy reform and good governance. After extensive discussions and consultations with like-minded individuals, both within and outside Nigeria, the group recognized the urgent need for a solid response to the leadership deficit in Nigeria and Africa. This realization led to the creation of Fixed Politics.
That research work on fixing politics that I did that then propelled me to build this community of people that belong to the Fixed Politics community. Our programs around the Office of the Citizen and community organizing, we are getting the citizens to really take their place. You can see how actively the Nigerian citizens have become. We saw it in the last election. And then the supply side activities were the training of a massive number of new political leaders through the School of Politics, Policy and Governance. We're going to expand it across Africa. The Senegal school is starting soon this year. By the time you are trained in the SPPG, you come out with character, competence and capacity, ready to serve in order to lead. The Nigerian school has already produced cohorts. The pioneer class, 160 people, political leaders, new political leaders for Nigeria. This class of 2022, we produced 134 new political leaders for Nigeria. The current class in session, class of 2023, there are over 200 of them in the class. Somebody said, Obi, you're multiplying yourself. He said, there is no greater mentorship you could have provided than to establish this kind of top quality, public leadership programs.
Following her tenure in government and the World Bank, Dr. Obi has built an illustrious career, holding positions on numerous boards across various organizations. She was a board member for Bharti Airtel in India, a director of the World Wildlife Fund, WWF, in Switzerland, a director of the Harold Hartog School of Government and Policy at Tel Aviv University. She was a co-chair of the Africa Regional Strategy Board of the World Economic Forum, Switzerland. She was an advisory board member of the Center for Global Leadership at Tufts University in Boston and other national and international organizations. She was a member of the board for the Central European University School of Public Policy in Budapest, Hungary. She is a commissioner of the Global Ocean Commission and a member of the Global Advisory Board for Facebook's Community Leadership Program. She currently serves on over 25 global boards, some of which are Nexford University, member of the Board of Trustees for FDC, Fundação Dom Cabral. She's a council member for Bayer Foundation's Social Innovation Council. She's a Hertie School Working Group member on Responsible Leadership for Club de Madrid. She's a member of the UN Refugee Agency's Advisory Group on Gender, Forced Displacement and Protection. She's a chair of the Women Political Leaders WPL at Brussels, Belgium. She's a global advisory board member for the Archbishop Tutu Fellowship at the African Leadership Institute in South Africa. Dr. Obi has also been decorated with several awards nationally, continentally, and globally. She was awarded Minister of the Year by This Day newspapers. She was also awarded Person of the Year by Sun newspaper. She's a recipient of the Robert F. Kennedy Award of Excellence in Public Service from the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. She's a recipient of the Mother Teresa Memorial Award for Social Justice 2018 by Harmony Foundation in India. She's one of the Albert Einstein Foundation's Genius 100 Visionary Thinkers. She's been listed as one of Time Magazine's 100 Most Influential People and the New York Times' 25 Women of Impact in 2015. She was on the Peace Research Institute's list of potential names for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2018. She is a Richard von Weizsäcker Fellow at the Bosch Academy in Berlin and a Senior Jackson Fellow at Yale University. She was the first woman to be awarded the national honor of Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic by the government of President Olusegun Obasanjo in 2006. In 2023, she was appointed by President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine as ambassador of the Ukraine government's Grain from Ukraine program. Dr. Obi is a senior advisor at the Africa Economic Development Policy Initiative. She is the founder and president of Human Capital Africa. She founded the Fixed Politics School of Politics, Policy and Governance, SPPG. 50 years after her conversation with her father on fixing Nigeria's governance issues, Dr. Obiageli Ezekwesili continues to be a protagonist for good governance in Nigeria and across Africa. Ezekwesili remains a consistent fighter for justice, inclusion, growth, development, prosperity, and stability in Africa. Her story is incredible. She's a woman of incomparable faith who believes that God divinely designed and gave her enormous grace for a purposeful life, blessed her with a purpose-guiding and unforgettable father and mother, guided her into marriage with a kingdom-minded husband who champions her growth, blessed her with purpose-supportive children, siblings, closest friends, and key mentors who have remained part of her life as she celebrates her 60th. Ezekwesili has only but the deepest gratitude for them all.
The joy of being 60 comes from the knowledge of how so rich in human experience my life has been. There is this privilege that I have had, and through the goodness of God.
All right, stop. Can we have another round of applause again, please? Thank you very much. You may be seated, please. What a life. What a life. Now, as far back as memory can serve, women have played major roles in the trajectory of politics, religion, society, and life in general. We would all be unclothed right now if it were not for Eve. But we would also not be here with some twins if it were not for Mary Slessor. We would also not be here. Yes, please give them a round of applause. In different aspects of our society. A lot of you are driving around now with bulletproof vehicles. And the woman who found that invented the bulletproof vehicle is a woman. And there are quite a lot of things that women have done. But if you think back, their advent and their journey in politics has always been one that men do not trust them at all. And women do not trust women. We know how many votes Sarah Jubrin got during the presidential elections. She had a female campaign manager. She had several people who were managers and working with her. And she got 1 vote. I guess all of them were thinking, at least if she gets 10 votes, I can say one of them is mine. So trust issues become a major play in politics and in governance. Today we want to talk about women as political leaders. And we'll be having an online contribution to help us drive those conversations. The accelerators of women political leadership with Alice Nelson of Vital Voices and Silvana Koch-Merin of Women Political Leaders will take the conversation further, and they are online right now, I understand. If they can join us quickly. They've been waiting on the wings. Women have played so many roles in changing the direction of political engagement. There was a political leader who said he wanted to just eat porridge and die, and told his son Esau to prepare porridge. One woman overheard the conversation and changed the direction. I think they're here now, they're online. Please, let's welcome them from the hall here. Please give them a round of applause as they join us. They're online to discuss the vital ingredients in accelerating women political leadership. You're welcome. Alice. Is Alice still there? Okay, yeah. Go ahead. We can't hear Alice. Is she telling us to zip up, or was this? Because I heard her do this. Okay, that's it. Alice, maybe you need to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, good morning, and happy birthday. It's so wonderful and a fantastic honor to be with you. And I'm delighted to be able to take part in this important and just fantastic and wonderful celebration of Dr. Obi. And I would like to welcome everybody wherever you are, if you are in Nigeria or elsewhere in the world, in New Zealand where it's middle of the night, in the United States where it's in the morning, or where if it's in Africa or Europe, sometime in middle of the day. I'm really pleased and honored to be able to introduce this wonderful and outstanding conversation among women leaders in the appropriate celebration of the diamond birthday of our dear and admired Dr. Obi. It's co-hosted by Women Political Leaders and Vital Voices. Well, what better way to acknowledge Dr. Obi's leadership and the political leadership of Dr. Obi? She's a true source of inspiration, of strength, of optimism, of knowledge, a role model to so many of us wherever we are in the world. And WPL, short for Women Political Leaders, which is the global network of women in political office, is really honored to have Dr. Obi as the chair of its board. The mission of WPL is to increase the number and the influence of women in political leadership, and I am Silvana Koch-Merin, the founder and president of WPL. Well, the objective of this session, which is now following, is to dedicate some time to hear from some of the world's most outstanding women leaders about the key factors that accelerate the growth of women participation in politics. We have some trailblazing leaders with us, from whom we will hear, who themselves embody this term of acceleration. And I would like to welcome, on behalf of WPL and Vital Voices, to celebrate Dr. Obi, the two leaders that are present, and the third one who is present with us in her thoughts and in her doings at her Ellen Johnson Sirleaf Center for Leadership. And let me start with a quote from Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who is the first elected woman head of state in all of Africa, where she took office in 2006 in Liberia and was re-elected in 2011. She once said, "If you're not scared of your dreams, they are not big enough." And if we can learn something of the leaders that we will hear from in the next half an hour, it's that being scared was never an option. It did not hold them back. They just went on and did what they did to the highest standards possible and inspired and encouraged so many women around the world to try to do the best and to not be scared themselves. So we have with us today Helen Clark, and Helen was the Prime Minister of New Zealand from 1999 to 2008, which means that she was 2 times re-elected, which is an important fact to mention, of course. After that, after her time as Prime Minister, she was the first woman to lead UNDP, and then she also ran in 2016 to become the Secretary General of the United Nations. There hasn't been a woman yet. At that time, in 2016, WPL conducted a survey in its network, and indeed more than 90% of the women politicians around the world thought it is high time for a woman to lead the United Nations. Helen was the chair of the WPL board in the past 4 years. Thank you again for this, Helen. She continues her tremendously important work here at WPL, but of course in many other roles, be it at the World Health Organization and Women Deliver. And whatever she does, she always is and remains committed to more women in leadership. The other outstanding leader that we will have the opportunity and honor to hear from is Her Excellency Joyce Banda. She was, of course, as you all know, the president of Malawi from 2012 to 2014, and she was Malawi's first woman president. Again, being scared was not an option. She witnessed and overcame many threats and personal risks, but this does not discourage her from standing up for what she believes in. With her Joyce Banda Foundation, she focuses on education and economic empowerment of women. Much needed, much accomplished. Thank you very much. And now it's my great pleasure to hand over to Alice Nelson, President and CEO of Vital Voices, to moderate and chair this conversation. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Silvana. It's an honor to be joining you and women political leaders. Congratulations on all the phenomenal work that you do to get more women into positions of power and accessing opportunity and making the lives of people around the world so much better. And Dr. Obi, huge congratulations. I can't tell you how Honored all of us at Vital Voices, your whole Vital Voices family and network is around the world to be celebrating your diamond birthday. And really, more than celebrating those 60 well-lived years, really celebrating what you stand for and what you've been fighting for, the legacy that you've been building. And I think that all of us would agree that there is this new weight, a new urgency behind the word leadership. I think never before has it been so clear just how much is at stake. And certainly what I've learned over the last 26 years working with women leaders through Vital Voices on the front lines of change, and that you certainly have taught me, is that true leaders know we can't afford to wait for that perfect moment, right? Or even a better moment to call out injustice or defend our values or forge a new path. So I am incredibly honored to be joined in this conversation celebrating your birthday with the former president of New Zealand, Helen Clark, and former president of Malawi, Dr. Joyce Banda, both of whom we've had the pleasure to work with. And I think so impressed at how both of them have used their platform, their voice, their power to really empower. And we'll get to legacy in just a moment. But in welcoming both of you, as we look around the world, we see a rising tide of authoritarian regimes that are really threatening democracy. And I think seeing women as a threat to some of their tactics. We can look to Sudan, we can look to the unprovoked invasion of Ukraine by Russia, so many places around the world. And I want to turn first to you, Helen Clark. I did, of course, ask them permission to use first names in this conversation. But Helen, I wanted to ask you, what is the value of women's leadership, particularly right now, both in politics, but actively on the front lines in civil society? Why are the values that women bring as leaders so critically important right now?
Well, firstly, women's voices have to be heard. We make up roughly half the population of every country, but we haven't held anything like that proportion of seats at the top tables in most countries. My own country's got to a gender equal parliament and gender equal cabinet, but this is pretty unusual around the world. For the most part, women are still significantly excluded from decision making. Now, secondly, I think that women do bring a different style of leadership and in general show characteristics which if men adopted them too are helpful. Women are much more likely to show empathy, much more likely to be people-centered, less narcissistic, more likely to look for the best advice and weigh the evidence, less likely to be top-down authoritarian, more likely to be collegial, first among equals. There are a lot of different characteristics about the way women operate, which can make them very, very effective, bringing the networking experiences they have from life outside politics and into politics. So, we've just we haven't really come out the other side of the COVID-19 pandemic. We saw women's leadership skills on display during that pandemic. The women actually, in a very difficult situation, by and large, did pretty well. Some men did well too, but the women in general did quite well. And it was because of that empathy, that putting people first, the willingness to communicate, the willingness to listen, the willingness to weigh evidence, to try and make the best decisions. And we just need more of that kind of leadership around our world today. Back to you, Elsa.
Thank you. And Dr. Joyce Banda, you and I met back in 2012, right after you had ascended from vice president to president. That was a very scary time for you, I know. And talk about, the perfect moment to lead, that perfect moment won't come, you have to take it. Talk a little bit about that transition and how you were able to take power against such difficult odds, against violence and threats, how you were able to take power, but then also how you were able to transform power as a woman leading your country.
I think it is important in this conversation, and I must say thank you very much for having me. this afternoon, and Helen, it's good to see you again. It is important to talk about, to give a background so that we take it into context, the difficulties that you are talking about. I was elected as, along with my president as running mate in 2009. During the campaign, he told Malawians he was going to take over from him. It was obvious the way we won. Nobody has won by 60%, and nobody may never do in the future. It was very clear at that moment, but it was the grassroots vote of people that did that. And everybody in Malawi that you meet, I am associated with grassroots people, because that is my constituency. I believe that leadership is a love affair. You must fall in love with the people yourself, and the people must fall in love with you. But in my particular case, it's rural people. Everybody knows, women and girls. So when we won, it just took 2 weeks for the country to see that we had been duped as women, because it wasn't only me, that the president had changed every promise he had made during the campaign about my participation in the presidency. So much so that by 2012, when he was passing away, I had been 1 year without being even invited to cabinet. So I didn't know much of what was taking place, because he told me the moment we got into office that you need to endorse my brother, then you can sit back and be a ceremonial vice president. And I said, well, but that wasn't the promise you made to Malawians. I'm not going to be a ceremonial vice president. I'm going to be understanding you and take over from you in 2014. Because of that disagreement, I was ignored and set aside, and I was on my own for the longest time. So one day, on 5th of April, Good Friday, somebody just whispered to me to say, look, it looks like the president has collapsed. In a normal situation, the Constitution says if the president is incapacitated, even when he has not died, the vice president shall call the first meeting of cabinet and then write a letter to the speaker. Until he gets well, she acts in that position. If he's dead, she will take oath immediately. Well, there was no information to me. I'm sitting at the house. Nobody has told me whether he's alive or not. In the evening of day 5, April 5, I phoned the State House to speak to the First Lady. Because at that moment, nobody has told me whether he's dead or not. And I said, I want to wish the president well. I'm told that he is very, very ill. Because nobody has told me. What I didn't realize is that they were preparing to smuggle the body out. He had died on his way to the hospital. So when I'm calling 7 o'clock in the evening, he's been dead 6 hours. So the pilot refused to take a dead body because it was an air ambulance. So he said I had come to collect a sick person. Back and forth with the president, even of South Africa, at the end, they were allowed to take out the body at night under a false name. So he went out as Daniel Hill, so that people should know. The following day, which is day 6, Malawians are still being made to believe very ill, but he has not died. But then we started to get information from networks like CNN. It looks like he has died. At that point, I called the old diplomats to tell them we were heading for a constitutional crisis. It is very important, if I'm talking to women that are potential leaders in the future, build an international network, to have vital voices, to have former presidents, to have defense people that know you, that respect you, that will stand by you. Because at that moment, I started calling on those. And some of those, one of them, Sir Richard Myers, General Richard Myers, of the US, who was head of defense, I think, were calling the head of defense in Malawi and urging him to do what was right, according to the constitution of Malawi. Day 6, nobody tells me anything, but I have now summoned all my house to tell them what I thought was happening. In the meantime, the cabinet was meeting without me. And they met without me and chose another president, not me. And so I very quickly wrote a letter to cabinet to them, telling them they were breaking the law. And so within an hour of the meeting with diplomats, the American government invited the chief secretary to her residence to ask what was going on, just to avoid conflict. Meanwhile, I'm still just sitting and waiting at home. So after that happened, the chief secretary phoned me and said, well, afraid now of the diplomats now who are calling them, so speak to the nation. I said, now to tell them what? Oh, tell the nation that the president is getting well, that he will return to Malawi soon. And so that's exactly what I did. I called a press conference and announced to the Malawi nation not to panic. The president is recovering and he will be back in Malawi soon. But I added to say, in the meantime, be comforted by the fact that you are in capable hands. So it is that phrase that got everybody excited. Somebody called that meeting that was going on to say she has declared herself in charge and that Malawians are in capable hands. So they then put together a team of cabinet ministers to go on Malawi Broadcasting Corporation, hold a press conference, and that took place at midnight of day 6. And that is why, when they were arrested, because later on this had a commission of inquiry, and at the end of it all, the ministers who had this midnight press conference, telling Malawians, don't listen to Joyce Banda, she's out of her mind, there's no way she can be in charge of it. And the president is okay and is coming back. They were arrested and they are called even now, and even in the report, midnight 6. So the midnight 6 told Malawians the president is still alive. Day 7 in the morning, I phoned the president of South Africa. And I told him, I have phoned every hospital in South Africa. Nobody tells me where my president is. And I want you to tell me what you know about this, because if you don't, then I will assume that you are interfering in Malawi affairs. So I think it took an hour. By 8 o'clock, day 7th of April, that I was told, I called the chief secretary, who I had written to the other day, who hadn't responded. He said that you told me to speak to the nation the other day. I want you now to tell me the truth. Is my president alive or not? He said, oh, in fact, he has passed away, because I'm told the president of South Africa called them in Malawi to say, you are on your own, come on, take your body from here. So they told me, we are going to be announcing death. And I said, well, he has just died? Yes, he has just died today, day 7. This man had been in the Malawi Defense Force morgue for 2 days. So now, death must be announced. And in a normal situation, it would be the vice president announcing that day. But they refused to allow me to be part of the delegation, announced the passing of the president. So now, at the end of the day, they have announced death. So now we are talking about a president who has gone, who is gone. Now, all the complications about how he went there or not, that will be for later, but now we have a dead president. So who takes over? They had already chosen another president the day before. So they asked the Minister of Justice to court, get an injunction to bar me from taking off. In the meantime, all the ministers and everybody and the Chief Justice were sitting at their new president's house, brother's residence, waiting for the minister to return so they can swear him in right there at the house. In the meantime, the judge at the court was nowhere to be found. Whether conveniently or whether it was a coincidence or whatever, since it was a long Easter weekend, but there was no judge. So they were just sitting at the court. In the meantime, I phoned the army commander And I phoned General Diro and told him to come to my residence. Because I asked the chief secretary in the morning, come here to announce death with me. He says, I can only come to your house if the commander is there. So when I asked my husband, who is also one of the best lawyers Malawi has, he said, well, I feel that he doesn't want to come because he believes that the army commander is the one that will bring sanity, because there's all these press conferences and stuff. So anyway, I then phoned, it was because of that I phoned the army commander, and I asked him to come. Now, if you read the commission of inquiry, he didn't tell me, it is in the report. They had spent that whole night of the 6th pushing him, take over for me, even if it means killing me, but take government and hand over to them. Because now they knew I'm going to be a problem because of the press conferences I was holding as well. But he resisted that. So when I said, can you please come? He said, I'm coming. I said, yesterday I called you, you didn't come. He says, no, you don't even have to persuade me. I'm on my way. I didn't know, I know now, that the international community had been phoning him throughout the night, and that he had resisted his call throughout the night to eliminate me. But he came and found that they had already removed my security. I didn't have a car. I didn't have police. I didn't have any. So anybody could have done anything to me. It was we call it 72 hours. In fact, if it is a book, it's going to be called 72 hours. If it is a film, it is 72 hours. In those 72 hours, I had no security. When the army commander got to my house, he asked, where is your protection? I said, I didn't have. So he called the army barracks. And that is the first time in 3 days, 72 hours, that I felt secure, as I saw them coming in trucks, jumping out with guns to surround my house for my safety. And so at that point, now people don't know what is going to happen. And I'm sitting at home. Now I am with the army commander, so I'm feeling a little bit comfortable. It is the army commander that phoned the Inspector General. Where are you? He says, I'm sitting with our future president. We are waiting for the minister to return from court with an injunction so he can take oath. So I'm sitting here, and the chief justice is here, and everybody is here. So the army commander says, there will be no swearing in where you're sitting. And I'm giving you 15 minutes to get to where the commander-in-chief is sitting.
Dr. Banda, this is an incredible story, and I think really make.
All right, you have been watching a symposium in honor of former Nigerian Minister of Education and Director, Due Process Office, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, who today has been marking her 60th birthday, live being held in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. To have you back on Newsday, a former Nigerian Minister of Education and Director, Due Process Office, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, has today been marking her 60th birthday. As part of the occasion, a symposium has been organized to highlight her personal and professional contributions to the development of Nigeria. We cross live now to follow the event as it unfolds.
Oh, I'm just saying you, sir. Your campaign went mathematical 71. Even stammerers know how to count it. Someone trying to sing the thing. Loop. I said, God, they've reached 80, you know. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are going to a different kind of presentation. Most times people think poetry is just an art. No, but it is not. Activism is involved in poetry. Reality is involved in poetry. Poetry most times even speaks about the things that we do not know. I remember the first time I came across the poem by Wole Soyinka on Abiku. There are quite a lot of women who had had the issue of stillbirth. And everybody just talked about the pain of the woman who had the issue. But nobody realized that the stillbirth child could also say something. Until Wole Soyinka wrote Abiku and said, I am calling for the third and the repeated time. And people then saw a different story.
Poetry speaks to our minds, speaks to our culture, speaks to our heritage. And so today, ladies and gentlemen, there's a special presentation by Chisom Ezugu and Kenilum Jehovah, Kenichi Ajayi. And would like to have that special song rendition after the poetry by Chisom Ezugu. Where's Chisom? Please give a round of applause to Chisom. Is Chisom around? Okay, all right. So I'll then invite Kenichi Ajayi for a special presentation. That's Chisom? She's going to sing. Go ahead. And after her rendition, I have a song that I want to also deliver. Well, I should have sing.
Hello, Jehovah, Lady, love me, had you man. Hello, Jehovah, Nekero, and Ele. Hello, Jehovah, Lady, love me, has he raising. Hello, Jehovah, Nekero, and Ele. Hosanna, Tiri, Ankechuku. Only Mona, and Ele. Hosanna, Tiri, Ankechuku. Only Mona, and Ele. Jehovah, Lady, love me, had you man. Hello, Jehovah, Nekero, and Ele.
And for those of you who don't speak Igbo, the song speaks to the greatness of God who created all things, and to him all praise must be. All right? And then for those of you who don't understand English, ane ogene ebegba neje emerame boneje ifo ketia na akete abokogene wati abokogene ati abokogene. Inclusiveness. Ladies and gentlemen, the next performance is from Uche Okoro. Is Uche Okoro around? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Uche Okoro, all my life you've been faithful.
For your mercy never fails me. All my days have been held in your hand.
life. Oh. Can you take that as a testimony, Jesus?
Thank you. All right. Thank you. Thank you. With the way this place is charged, I feel like collecting offering. But the problem is there's somebody sitting in front here that doesn't give shishi. You know those kind of uncles that you pass offering baskets to, they'll look at it and pass to the next person. Yeah. All right. Now, the last performance is we're going up north. It's interesting that when a gathering is here, I just want you to know that every time you see Nigerians gather for united purpose and unity of purpose, it is because we are all gathering for greatness. We're gathering for excellence. No tribes, no distinctions, no tribalistic tones, just because we're Nigerians and we like excellence. And so just to ask, how many of you here are from the north? How many of you here are from the west? How many of you here are from the east? There's a particular guy that is raising his hand for west, north, east. Are you a custom officer? I don't understand. I said north, he raised hand. West, he raised hand. Oh, it's a complete Nigeria. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there's a serious issue that we need to talk about now, and that is the very core part of this conversation that we're having. And it's the integration conversation. Intergenerational conversations. I'll tell you why it is important. In 2017, my dad came to my place and spent 2 months. And within that time, the children were on holidays. I woke up in the morning and I saw that my sons were playing PS3. Oh, I flipped. They didn't wash cars. They didn't clean the house. They were playing PS. I screamed, "What is wrong with you people? What is this?" And my dad comes out of his room and said, "Calm down. You are shouting. Why?" And I'm looking at this man that used to beat us for just anything at all. But in any case, there's a lot more of these conversations that we'll be having today so that we can bridge the gap. But before then, still talking about the national engagement, now let's have Nagode by Deji. Please give him a round of applause.
Sutana
All right. So I was telling you, Your Excellencies, the issues of the conversations that should be had to bridge the intergenerational gap, very important. And when I try to tell my children how much, because my dad is a retired military man, how much belt I enjoyed while I was growing up, how many walls I faced, they don't get it. Let me ask you a question. How many of you here that were growing up, when you were growing up, will walk into the room when your dad is watching NTA Benin? NTA, one channel, it's only one channel on the TV, and change it. Now the children just walk into your room and change it to Cartoon Network. And you tell them, but I'm watching something. You say, but I want to, but the thing is, this conversation has to be had. And the reason we have to have this conversation is so that we both understand ourselves. To help us drive this conversation today, I would like to invite Dr. Amina Salihu, the Pioneer Dean of School of Politics and Policy.
Okay, here. Indeed, it's a day of Nagudi. It is said in Hausa, Tuangirma Mia Sanama. I'd like to ask those in the room who can translate that to begin to do so. But to say that you do not have a big masquerade in the room and you praise them by half. The Almighty God is in this room, and we're grateful for the honor of this day. Dear magnificent audience, welcome to an intergenerational dialogue titled Character, Competence, and Capacity, Living a Life of Impact. We will be having what we call a village square style conversation because our honoree today is someone who is very rooted, very connected. And so some of us, as in village square style, will be on stage, and some of us will be in the audience. Let me begin inviting some of these mentees of our great honoree. Themselves, they have become mentors, because it is said in Yoruba, Tewe bakpela roshe, ama doshe. And so they themselves are emerging icons. First up, Lois Auta, a strong voice of change and global advocate on disability rights. Dave Obole, energy expert, political advisor, member of the SPPG Stream 2 class. Sheung Onigbide, data and tech in the public interest, virtual also, co-founder and global director of a widely respected budget. Joyce Daniel, versatility personified, entrepreneur, and incredible compare, member of the SPPG Stream 2 class. And Yemi Adamolekun, award-winning civil society activator and activist, CEO, Enough is Enough, faculty, Stream 1 member. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is also said, Nneka, mother is supreme. I now have the honor to invite our mother, our friend, our leader, innovator, founder, executive, public servant par excellence, multi-award winner, Nobel Peace Prize nominee, citizen of the world, and a style icon to boot. Most importantly for this conversation, our transgenerational mentor, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili. I believe now we can. We have just 40 minutes for this conversation, and we're going to make it count. Lois, let me begin with a story that our honoree once told us about her mom, her beautiful mom, heaven rest her soul. Mommy said to our honoree, "You're named Obiageli, born into wealth. So you really should just enjoy yourself and have fun. But you have chosen to take on the hardest questions and challenges of the world. Why is this so? What a family."
Honorary. You often tell great stories about your parents. It's clear that they played very significant role in life. Could you share your perspective on how nurture influences character?
First, I just want to thank every one of you that came out today to be part of this symposium. And I especially want to acknowledge the Almighty Father who has brought me thus far to give me the legitimacy to say I'm a real elder. And I, to remember to have these fond memories of my parents, like this question that you've asked. And in their absence, my husband, Pastor Chinedu Ezekwesili, my guy, Mokembo, yes. And all of you that have come out, and especially my children, Chinemelum Chinwoba, Chidera, and my daughter, Odinaka Chukumo. So the question that you have asked, it plays an incredible role to have the strong foundation that parenting gives to a child. Our dad said to us that there are three things that he owed us. He and my mom, because my mom was a quintessential entrepreneur, just so that she could support this incorruptible public servant of a husband. And so to get us through the kind of education that my dad wanted, it required both of them being a team. And so my dad would say to us that there are three things that they would give us. Values, they would give us knowledge through education, and that they would give us their name. And they said to us that these three things, not any landed asset, not any fat bank account would give us the head start and take us far in life. And we saw that. We saw constant barraging with values. I mean, I hardly say anything without saying, my dad said to me, my mom said to us, because it was a daily barrage of values. But it was not just in the statement they made, it was in living the values before us. So values, and then they gave us this education. We didn't even realize what it took to give 9 children, because he inherited 5 of my first cousins who are not cousins, they are my siblings. So we were 9 that needed to be taken through education. And then he gave us his name. And today, God knows that those 3 things have taken us far.
Indeed, they have taken you very far. Something that amazes me is how a honoree does so many things and does them so well. Dave, is that something you have noticed as well?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Amina. I've been meaning to ask her this question all this while. By the way, 60 looks good on you. It's a good place to talk about. It's the new 40, really. I'll be coming for some secrets later. To be born was not a choice you made, but the investments that made you such a gift to Nigeria and to our world was a choice you made. And you made this choice amidst many commitments and responsibilities. You are the beautiful wife of a contented Pastor Chinedu Ezekwesili. You are Mama Ejima. You are a policy formulator and advocate. You are an activist. You are a global peace ambassador. All this in one person. It appears as if some people missed out on their purposes. And since God wouldn't let those spaces go unfilled, He added the assignments to yours. How are you able to juggle all of this thing up and still maintain this unique cutting edge that makes you Obi Ezekwesili?
Oh my goodness, how many hours do we have?
Just give me the short fixes.
Well, I think that, and Amina knows, because Amina has known me for quite a considerable number of years. I think that the significant thing that our dad especially did for us was this understanding purpose. He used to say to us, anything that is created must function based on the purpose for which it is created.
Auntie Obi, the people at home that are listening to the signing lady need... Where is it?
They need me to be looking somewhere?
No, we need the chair by you so that as you're signing, the check, as you're signing, as you're speaking, she can be signing.
Okay. So does she need to be? Okay. Please clap for us.
Thank you.
All right, so...
Are we good? Good. Excellent.
Excellent.
So he talked about everything created having purpose. And that if anything that is created is not maximizing the fulfillment of that purpose, it has no business being around. So that really ministered to us. And so on that understanding, one of the things that subsequently happened was when we had the redemption experience, when we gave our lives to Jesus, my husband and I, and we understood even deeper the issues of purpose. And that understanding took me into some revelation of being a woman, that there are at least 5 realities that I must fulfill. I must fulfill the reality of myself as a unique individual. And that means in that capacity, I can be anything I choose to be in life. And that was always a point my father made to us, his daughters. You can be anything. You can be anything. And that was important. And then my second reality was my reality as a daughter of parents, of my dad and my mom. There's a reality there that requires you to be something. And then my reality as a sibling of my brothers and my sister. And then my reality ultimately as a wife and reality as a mother. In each of these realities, I understood that there were purposes to fulfill. And if my father said that anyone something created that is not fulfilling its purpose ought not to be around. I decided, I want to be around, and I'm going to fulfill every reality that is attendant to my being Obi Ezekwesili. So I try to do it a day at a time.
And you do it so well, dear sis, you do it so well. And something that I've always loved about you is your courage to be vulnerable. Sheung, I have seen our founder cry tears of joy. I have seen her cry tears of exasperation at sheer incompetence that's avoidable. You know. Have you also experienced that in that kind of station?
That's an every moment experience. I would say, because anytime we talk, we first say it's been a while we kept up. Maybe you disappear often, and now you're calling me. Then we go a little bit about work. Then the next thing we go all on Nigeria, Mrs. Obi, our tributes will be passed, so you will be able to read a little part of mine. I couldn't exhaust it. But she's a beacon of hope and of values for a lot of us. And she always said that thing, dignified by my dad, who told me, validated by my dad, who told me not to dignify nonsense. Very, very touching. She always thinks she applies alone to her, but it applies to all of us. My question is, we are in a very complex world where values are sacrosanct, but we are also in a world where it could cause us to ask questions about, can we truly stand at all times because of the challenges and the difficulty in navigating a difficult environment. But you have always kept your own personality on the altar of integrity, stewardship, purpose, service. How have you been able to carry that persona? How have you been able to stand strong? I remember reading El Rufai's book, The Accidental Public Servant. And there was a point in how he continuously referred you, as someone who stood for immense integrity. And I just want to ask that question. For people who are young, we have a bit of long, we are in activism now, it looks interesting, but maybe as you navigate forward, you don't know where you're going. How do you keep values strong?
Two things that, again, my always emphasized was that every individual has the power of choice. He just made sure we understood that, because he said that the person who understands that the power to choose any direction or a value or a vice, as the case may be, is given to you. God is the one who could have made it impossible for the individual person to have the power to choose. And if God, the ultimate person, if we could call him that, did not take away that power of choice from us, my dad always said that if we understood it, we would take more responsibility for the things we select to do or not to do. And so that our choice, he made sure he just ingrained that in us. Because what he did was, as soon as we would turn 18, my dad would no longer even scold you or hate you. You know what he would say to you? He would say, continue if it pays you. Oh, that used to suit. It was like that. Ken me. That kenning me was better than being told, continue if it pays you. And one day he got to understanding that he was saying that to us so that we would understand the power we had to make choices. So you would have to choose. I know people who say that it is hard. It is hard in Nigeria to stay on a particular straight arrow because everybody, the system, all kinds of things. No. Ultimately, it's either you choose to be corrupt or you choose not to be corrupt. Simple. And then the second thing was the power of voice. My dad always said to us, don't you ever swallow your voice when your voice is necessary to be heard. And he taught us that power of voice by making sure that our home was a debating theater. And he could lose, and we would all laugh at him for losing. I mean it. And then, if you won, then you're the one who got daddy's extra meat in his meal. So in many ways, it was a home where we had a father figure and a mom, a supportive mom. For example, what my mom was, especially when I was growing up, was the restraining factor. Because he would say to my dad, if I left you and this girl alone, you would spoil her completely. And she would not realize that she's going to get married and she's going to have to carry children. So the two of them were quite a pair in raising us.
So important. And are you a pair with our dear Pastor Chinedu? Every time I hear Pastor call our honorary baby, I'm like, this tells an important story, that God is love. So you can't say because you are religious, you can't show love to your spouse. He calls his spouse baby. Nobody else has any excuse, therefore. We're talking about families and homes, and we had said this is going to be a village square conversation. So we have children from our secondary school in the room, 2 secondary schools representing the rest of the stellar array of students we have in the room. Jamie David Ohene from Government Secondary School, we say Zone 3. Is Jamie here? And from Spring Hall British School, we have Navila Abubakar. I want to be sure that our 2 youngsters are in the room because they get a chance. They get a chance to ask our honorary a question. It's a chance of 1,000,000 years. Yeah, they can speak from the podium here. That's fine. They are part of the village square. They are members of the village. Thank you for affirming them. Yes, please. Nabila, you're going first? Good.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Welcome.
My name is Nabila Abubakar Ibrahim, and I'm the head prefect of Spring Hall Butcher Secondary School. First of all, I'd like to say a massive congratulations on your diamond birthday. I wish you many more years and many more years of success. So, after hearing all these amazing things about you, I just wanted to ask, what inspired you to take such a beautiful path?
Should we take all the questions so you take them at once? Sure. The next
we are taking the next student, yes.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jamie Ohunene David, and I'm the head girl of Government Secondary School, Zone 3. Firstly, I would like to say a very big congratulations to Ma'am Obi Ezekwesili on your diamond birthday, and I wish you long life and more grace and health to continue in your practice and influence the world at large. My question is, as a woman, having heard of your contribution to the political aspect of our country, how are you able to deal with the complacency that the nation had with only the male gender contributing and holding positions in politics? And how are you able to embrace inclusivity of women in politics and leadership in a whole? Thank you.
Wow. Many thanks, Nabila and Jamie.
Is it not obvious that our tomorrow will be all right?
It will be all right. It will be all right.
Oh, wow. So, why did I choose this part of inspiration? A beautiful part of inspiration. I think that, number one, as I said, as I said in the interview on that documentary, I actually came to understand that we're not just created to be any other person. We're uniquely created. And that I came to believe that I do have a divinely designed purpose. And so if I have a divinely designed purpose, the person who can help me understand that purpose every day is God. And I don't talk about God loosely. I do have this sense of God, and it makes the biggest difference in my life. And so understanding that has helped me to sort of stay the course. If it is something that I know that this is how the Lord would have me stand, it wouldn't matter where any other person stood. For as long as it is God, I'm just going to keep going. And so that strength is inner. It comes from an inner place. And then it is supported. First, it was supported by my parents when they were here. It is now supported by my husband so much, and then by my incredible sons and my siblings, and so many great mentors that have been there with me all the while. But I keep my eyes on my purpose, and I don't in any way look to the right or look to the left. I just face the goal of my purpose. And on the question of how have I done the things of trying to get more women
inclusion
into in an inclusive way into leadership? Well, one thing that many of the ones who call me auntie, who call me mom, who call me anything, who call me their mentor, one thing they know is that I just say to the girls, you have no business thinking that you were coming into the world and the Lord said, here you are, a woman, take half the brain of a man. He didn't say that to you. So I don't want you to walk around the world behaving as if you need permission in order to be the great person that you've been created. And in all the assignments, that I have done, I have made sure to include women. I totally, absolutely believe in the power of women to get things done. Even a lot of the men that are here know that this is true. At the School of Politics, Policy and Governance, would you believe that most of the people who run the school are women? On our faculty, we have plenty of women. I have equal number of girls and women that I mentor. When I was Minister of Education, I was accused of discriminating against the men. And, I was denying it. And then suddenly it hit me that, wait a minute, what are you denying? The women just did so well. And they found themselves in the positions. And for the first time in the life of an organization, men are the ones complaining. I mean, let them complain, no?
So. Indeed, thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Nabila. Please, a round of applause for our young students. We're going to be inviting a young chap very soon. Village Square. So, our honorary talked about.
All right, so you have been watching a symposium in honor of former Nigerian Minister of Education and Director, Due Process Office, Dr. Oby Ezekwesili, who today has been marking her 60th birthday.